I worked really hard to build up my July wrap-up video, and you won't believe how many books I read. Here's a hint, it's more than 10, but not much more than 10. Hi, my name is Bea. Welcome to my channel. Mama Needs to Read Romance. More romance than last month. So I filmed the beginning of that before I got COVID, and then I got sick, and it's been forever. And now it's like, did I read books in July? Oh, I did? Okay, let's talk about them. Feels like it's been so long. I read, are you ready? 14 books. And you may be thinking, but wait, didn't you read some novellas and even a short story? And to that I would say, shh, don't tell anybody. Is that why I read that many books? Why, probably yes. Would we expect as many next month? No, I would not expect 14 next month. Not at all. Let's talk about what I read. So as I said, I read 14 books and I was trying to rank them and they were all so different that I thought, well, let me just do it by category. So I read 3 contemporary romance, 4 fantasy romance, and 7 historical romance. So I thought I would go ahead and just put them in their categories and rank them that way. And I thought that'd be kind of fun. So let's start with my contemporary romance. I read 3. And coming in at number 3 is Sweet Talk by Cara Bastone. I gave it 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. It was full of twists and turns. So the guy texts this woman at night because he can't sleep. He doesn't know who she is. He mistakes her for his sister. And then they start texting and then they start talking and they really hit it off. But she knows who he is, but she has a secret. And if he discovers her secret, he's not going to like her anymore. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of the Audible originals. It's Audible Plus too, so it doesn't cost anything. If you have an Audible subscription, you can listen to it. And it's part of the Love Lines series. I didn't know how realistic the pairing was because they are quite different, but I really enjoyed watching them peel the layers back of one another and just learning about their lives. And it was fascinating and just finding out, like, seeing what was going to happen. I was on the edge of my seat here and there. So it was good. Number 2 in my contemporary is The Game Plan, part of the Game On series. It's a football romance. I'd never read one before. And this one is very visceral, like it's very intense, but in more romantic type ways. I really enjoyed the hero, who is very different from any kind of hero I've ever read before. He's got piercings and tattoos and he's a football player and he's like a big teddy bear. And I'd never gone for somebody like that in one of my books before. But I was like, okay, this is nice. This is a nice difference. And I loved how much he loved the heroine. They've known each other for a while and he's carried a torch for her for quite a while. But one week together when they're taking care of another mutual couple friends of theirs, they have had a baby. Both the hero and the heroine are just hanging out at the house. And finally the love that they feel for one another really gets expressed. And then we see what happens when it's time to face reality and go their separate ways because they don't live near one another. But it was really neat to watch the characters grow and mature, and I loved him as a character. He was such a doll. So I really enjoyed this book, and I gave it 4 stars. My number 1 came out of absolutely nowhere. It's called The Seat Filler by Soraya Wilson. It popped up on my Amazon one day. I was on Prime, and I was trying to just find some books. I was like, well, maybe I can get something cheap on Prime Day. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and I believe it's called Whisper Sync because it somehow also popped up on my Audible. Like I downloaded it on my Kindle, and then all of a sudden I had the audio version. And I'm like, well, I didn't pay anything. So that was really nice. And this book, I was just so impressed. I gave it 4.5 stars. I would have given it a complete 5, except that I found her to be a little annoying and obnoxious. Some of the comments that she made, I did not care for. At certain points, I was like, can we find anyone else to be the heroine? Just anyone, someone off the street. Can we pull that person in? Like, it's just, she was so irritating to me at certain points. But I thoroughly love this book. If you like celebrity romance, which I don't know honestly if I would generally like celebrity romance, but I really like this book. She has to be a seat filler, which is like in the awards shows, you know, they don't want any empty seats. So she is helping out her friend by being a seat filler and winds up next to like the hottest guy around. I mean, picture a Chris, you know, fill in the blank for the last name. Pratt, Pine, Hemsworth. I know there's more and I can't think of them. He's that guy. He's like the it actor. And she pretends that she doesn't know who he is, which is hilarious. It was just so cute. He starts pursuing her and she has believe it or not, she has a fear of kissing, and he helps her overcome that fear. He is one of the sweetest heroes I have ever read in my life. I was falling so hard for this guy. He's just the best. He helps her with her blooming business, and there were some obstacles that fell into their path that I didn't exactly expect, and the second one I was like really unsure. I was like, is this an obstacle? And then I guess it was, and you'll see what I mean. But I found out later that this is considered to be a closed door romance, and don't run away yet. There's some kissing and caressing that goes on in this book that I defy you to say that it's not hot. It was, even though there were no open door things going on. I'm telling you, if you're not, give this book a chance. If you're more of an open door person, still give it a chance because it was hot. I'm telling you, I'm serious. So it was very fun. I'm definitely going to read more Soraya Wilson. I really enjoyed it a lot. Moving into fantasy romance, my number 4 is Lover of Thorns and Holy Gods. That thorn in the Lover of Thorns, you might be able to guess what that thorn is, especially when you realize that this short story is all about Brishan and Ildiko getting it on in a different way. And yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars because there wasn't really much of a plot. I had said in one of my previous videos that it was basically Grace Draven coming back at me for saying that in Radiance there was no anatomy lesson in the love scenes. And she's like, I got your anatomy lesson right here. So it was just a huge love scene essentially, which is fine. But yeah, not a lot of substance, so I'm going 2.5 stars. My third place, another Wraith King's novella, Night Tide. Not a lot of romance, so I couldn't give it 5 stars. It was a good, scary story. This story is all about a really, really scary thing that lives in the ocean depths and pulls people to eat them by making them feel really depressed about their lives to the point where they want to just end it all by walking into the ocean, and then the thing eats them, and it's very scary. And our main character is a girl who lives on the side of the shores, and she does shrimping with her horse and has magical powers that she can feel things going on in the water. And it was really beautifully written. It was somewhat terrifying. It was very different and interesting. I really enjoyed it. And there was hardly anything going on in terms of romance, and that's partly because the main character in this story is the husband of her half-sister. So there's not a whole lot that can happen, but you get the impression that something will happen later on. But I say 3 stars. Number 2, The Court of Thorns and Roses. I also gave this 3 stars. It was a great story. As I said in my video that was all about this, I preferred the first half. Although later on, it's so interesting. The Court of Mist and Fury really just changed the whole game and the way that this book is even interpreted by me. So I don't want to give anything away, but I found the romance a little contrived because, well, I don't want to give anything away. Anyway, yes, this book was good. It was good storytelling. It was a great introduction to this series, but I really disliked a lot of the gross stuff that she has to do once she heads under this mountain. If you want to know more, you could see my review with spoilers, or you could read the book. But I felt like this was an interesting book. I'm glad that I read it just to get to the Court of Mist and Fury. But yeah, I think that's all I can say without ruining anything. Number 1 for fantasy, 5 stars, The Court of Mist and Fury. Who's surprised? Are you surprised? I'm not. Oh my gosh, this book is so darn good. Can't stand it. Again, I don't want to give anything away because if you want to read this, I highly recommend it. Oh my gosh, just so good. The adventure, the peril, the angst. We all love the angst, apparently, from what I've heard. And yes, the love story was very top-notch, very slow burn. Just great characters, great character development. I actually listened to this through graphic audio, which can be found on Audible. You have to use your credits, but it's highly, highly worth it. It's called A Movie in Your Mind. And man, did I enjoy it. So if you're looking for something to try, and you don't have to do A Court of Thorns and Roses first, if you want to try Court of Mist and Fury, grab the graphic audio, listen to it. Very good. 5 stars. Moving into historical, number 7, A Hathaway Wedding. It is a novella. As you may know, if you know me at all, I tend to rate the shorter ones lower because there's not as much development, but it's a novella, so I don't know what I want. Anyway, I read them and then I go, I wish there was more. And I'm surprised that there's not, despite the fact that it's a short story or a novella. So I need to get over it. But anyway, this is number 7. I gave this 3 stars. The wedding was a little zany for my taste. I would have liked a little more romance, but the zaniness was kind of fun. It's Win and Kev's wedding. You're supposed to read it after Seduce Me at Sunrise. I actually have a link to the actual book below. It's online, so you can read it right now if you would like, and I don't blame you if you want to do that. There was some animal cruelty discussed and a little bit portrayed in the book. Of course, Beatrice comes to the rescue. I have a really hard time with anything like animal cruelty related, enjoying it, so I couldn't give this a much higher. If you are a Hathaway's fan, I highly recommend reading this because it's so nice to see the characters. And yeah, it was a wild ride and it was short. So there you have it. Number 6, A Lady for a Duke. I gave it 3.5 stars. When I heard about this book, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read this. This sounds crazy. 2 best friends go off to war and one they believe died. When in reality, that person used that opportunity to become the truest version of themselves in becoming Viola. Gracewood is the hero in this story and Viola is the heroine. Gracewood is really struggling. It's been 2.5 years since Waterloo and he has a lot of pain, mentally and physically. And then all of a sudden, Viola shows up with her companion, who is actually her sister-in-law. But Viola and Gracewood heal together without Gracewood realizing that the woman that he is falling in love with used to be his best friend. I anticipated like a lot of that. And I think because this is British, maybe it's more subtle and it's more quiet. And the author is brilliant. I mean, there's so many beautiful meditations on the human experience and what we gain and what we lose when we choose to be the truest version of ourselves. I found it so beautiful. And Lady Marley, who's another character, had me laughing out loud so many times. I mean, I just loved her character. I wish she was in it more. I was hoping for more romance to the point where I was like, at one point I was like, is this a romance or is this just historical fiction? Because the romance was so scant. But again, like for me, I like more lighthearted. So take that into consideration. If you really like melancholy and you like heavy emotion and you like subtlety and just a lot of dialogue, then this is absolutely a book for you. I would have liked a little more action, honestly. And I would say if you were to break this book into 4 quarters, I would say the third of the 4 quarters drove me up a wall, which is why I couldn't give it a higher rating, because Gracewood, I felt he handled it pretty well upon finding out that his best friend is not dead and that his best friend is now with him as Viola. He did a beautiful job, I thought, handling that overall. Viola, she was driving me a little bit crazy because Gracewood's like, can we get married? And she's like, how dare you ask me to get married? And then he's like, well, can you be my mistress? And how dare you ask me to be your mistress? And then he's like, can we be best friends? How dare you ask me to be your best friend? And he's like, well, will you be the companion to my sister even though you are still learning to navigate society as a young woman? Yeah, okay. And I felt like, Viola, give this guy a break. He's got PTSD. He's got physical pain because of his leg and the trauma that he suffered during the war. He's also trying to overcome an addiction. I think this guy's doing pretty well. The epilogue, the happily ever after, was just beautiful. I really, really loved the end. And I think if I had skipped parts of it and just gone straight to the end, I think I would have been perfectly content. So, but yeah, it was a good story, very different. Number 5, Scandal in Spring. It's one of the final Wallflower series books. Daisy and Matthew get their special book. Matthew was not my favorite for her, as I've said 1 million times. I kind of wish it was Cam, but of course we see him later in the Hathaway series. It was a beautiful story. It was very exciting and I did enjoy it. So 4 stars. Number 4, Seduce Me at Sunrise. I really, really loved this book. This is a 4-star, but I still marked it above the 4-star Scandal in Spring because although Kev is not my favorite type of hero because he's a little too rough and gruff for me, his intense love for Win puts this above Scandal in Spring because Matthew is a little more cold, I felt, whereas Kev is just, he adores Win above all else. This is a beautiful story. I loved seeing them finally get to fall in love after they've been fighting fighting their love for each other for years and years and years, and they finally get to come together, and it was exciting. And I also loved seeing the brotherhood bonds get stronger between Kev and Cam. So just a great story. Strong 4 stars for me. Number 3, The Captain of All Pleasures by Cressley Cole. I read this as part of my Trying a Chapter challenge of pirate romance, and I really enjoyed it. I loved how different it was. She wrote it in a very steamy way. Also, I loved how both of the characters were kind of hotheads. They're sort of alphas, and I thought that was really neat. I liked the scenes on the high seas. It was very exciting, and just traveling around with them throughout the world as they go on the Great Circle Race was a lot of fun. Number 2, at 4.5 stars, A Wallflower Christmas. I was gushing over this one in my ranking Wallflowers video the other day. Upon a reread, I just love it so much. It's the last time we get to really focus on all of the Wallflowers together as the older brother of Lillian and Daisy gets his time to fall in love, and his a lot of humor in this book, a lot of romance. You get to see all the favorite characters from previous Wallflower books, such as Marcus and Lillian or Sebastian and Evie. They get their love scenes as well. And it was just a beautiful story set against the backdrop of Christmas. I mean, what's not to love? It was just a beautiful story. I loved seeing Rafe mature and become the best version of himself, thanks to Hannah. My number 1 historical romance is Mine Till Midnight, the first Hathaway's book. I loved seeing Cam's devotion to Amelia and just seeing her start to heal and allow somebody else into her life. I love getting to meet all the Hathaways all over again. I likened it to Little Women, getting to reread and see all the characters when they're young and together, and just how beautiful it was, and just knowing what's coming for all of the characters and just the happiness that they're going to experience really helped, because, like, for example, Leo is in really bad shape for a lot of this book, but of course he's still quite humorous, but you know that everybody's happy endings are coming. And I just thought this book was exciting, and I mean, there's even a paranormal element, which I thought was really neat. I loved getting to see many of the characters, such as Sebastian and Marcus and their ladies from the Wallflower series. It was just fabulous, and I adored this book, so 5 stars. So that was my 14 books for the month of July. Thanks for hanging out with me. Looking forward to reading a bunch more this August. We're already midway through, so I've read some more. And I can't wait to talk about them next month, hopefully before mid-September. I hope you're doing well. I hope that you are enjoying whatever it is that you are reading. And until next time, thanks so much. Take care and bye.